there, I'm Stephen Stairs. I'm the President and CEO of Benton Resources, Inc. And we're here today to talk about the Great Burnt Lake Copper VMS deposit.
Stephen, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Merlin.
We haven't done an interview, we haven't met in person, so this is our kind of a first meeting. I first really came across Benton in the last kind of 5 or 6 months. I've been doing this kind of copper show for Crux every couple of weeks. I look through the news releases of the junior explorers, the mid-tiers, and the results coming from Great Burnt Lake have been catching my eye. And here we are. So what do you got there?
Oh, it's a nice piece of massive chalcopyrite pyrrhotite from the VMS deposit. This particular piece grades just under 20% copper.
Amazing, amazing. You don't need a hand lens to see the sulphides in that. It's kind of so the goldy yellow is the chalcopyrite, and the kind of the more silvery yellow is the pyrrhotite. Fantastic. And is there any gold in here?
In the lower zone, we're having a bit of gold up to 4 grams over a meter. This particular lens in the upper zone, about 0.2 grams. You've
been pulling out some spectacular results. Thicknesses from a couple of meters up to 20-something meters. And you've always plotted them on a long section.
Right.
And I've been kind of wanting you to publish a cross-section. You've actually brought some in. I've had a look at some of your cross-sections, but when are they going to come out publicly? When are you going to put out in your presentation and in your news releases cross-sections?
Yeah, so news releases, we don't have them in there, but on our website in a new presentation, it is on there now. I think we've got about 3 or 4 sections for the cross sections. And to be honest, we're still a little bit sketchy on releasing them because we've got a couple lenses. We don't know if it's the same lens, refold it, or structurally displaced. So as we drill a few more sections from top to bottom on the complete lens or lenses on the deposit, and get a good feel for it, we'll be able to draw proper sections.
Well, you see, that's the challenge, and that's the problem, because when you see something in a long section, because you've got this lovely kind of plunging chute that you put on a long section, so when you look at it on the page, it looks like a single body. But if you kind of fling that round to the camera, you could have
2 lenses.
Displaced lenses. And I've seen that in some companies where they've actually got 3 or 4 and they're off section, and they kind of present it as one ore body, but actually they're very kind of broken up stuff. So just tell me a little bit about the geology. What does this feel like? Because quite often VMS deposits can be small and compact and high value, 1 or 2 million tons. Is that what you're thinking of here? Are we looking at a 1 or 2 million ton target?
I think we're probably approaching the 1 or 2 million ton already in the lens we have. It's 650 meters long. Anywhere from in height in the main lens of 75 to 200 meters in the lens. Again, it needs a lot more drilling
to make it into the resource category. But kind of just in terms of scale, that's kind of ballparkish what you're looking at.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Talking to guys like Steve Piercy, I was mentioned to, Memorial University professor for geology. He's a VMS expert. His comments today to us at our booth was, these sediment-hosted deposits can be massive, like Brunswick, and there's a few in Finland. There's these massive VMS deposits, sediment-hosted.
In terms of tonnage, kind of, are we talking 5 million tons?
38 million tons is kind of the average of a Beshi type, and this is what the category falls into. Worldwide scale, but who knows? I mean, as I mentioned to you earlier about the Rambler Metals mine, it started in 1971 with a small lens of like 2 million tons.
So something like this. Yes. So something like burnt Rambler Metals got started on something which is not dissimilar to Great Burnt Lake.
Yeah, it was a high-grade lens, had a little bit of gold in it. We do believe we have 2 lenses, or something has happened structurally to the lower lens when we get down plunge at about 650 meters. because the gold content is much higher and the silver content is much higher, so the precious metal values. So that could be a relation of, you know, secondary structure, and that's why maybe why even the lenses are separated. Maybe it's been faulted or folded down. So, you know, there's a little bit of complexity there, and that's where we're drilling in that area right now, trying to get a couple of long, you know, full cross sections on it. And of course, with that, you miss some holes because we're going to be below the lens and above the lens. But we have worked our way out on some cross sections, so we'll be able to produce those once we get the results, you know, over the next you know, few weeks. And then we're actually making pads down plunge now to go into no man's land, to drill those deeper targets. And we got a couple geophysical crews kind of on standby to pulse the holes in case we do miss, and see if we can get an off-hole conductor and see where the lens goes.
Well, let's look at this, because you have had this kind of historic. You've known that there's kind of a zone of mineralization. So quite a lot of the work that you've done has been almost kind of reconfirming or confirming a known geological model, and you're now getting to the stage where you're not going to be twinning historical data, but you're actually going to be stepping out and doing kind of fresh exploration. And I know that you've had some superb and better results than they had before, and perhaps that's linked to core recovery and better analytical techniques. But what are your tools to help you target in your new exploration? Is it improved geology? Have you got any geophysics? Is there any geochemistry, anything mapping from surface? You know, what are your tools and your levers to help you target as you step out?
So we're starting with a database, like an old database. You know, good geologists have worked at this, but the one thing that's not been done is geochemistry, you know, on footwall and hanging wall rocks. Yep. For targeting. So we're starting that now. In fact, again, the Memorial University has offered some programs also to help us with geochemistry on chasing, you know, the footwall and hanging wall rocks when we're even belt scale.
So is that from drill core? You're looking at the kind of the trace element geochemistry and the signatures within
the alteration zones, you know, on above and below the deposit. So hardly any work like that has ever been done.
Yeah.
Geophysics, there has been a couple of new airbornes by Spruce Ridge, the guys that we picked it up, did on a VTEM survey. So they have hundreds of untested conductors. I mean, so many, it's overwhelming. So this belt is like so untested, it's unbelievable. And soil geochemistry by historical, we've compiled them all, you know, but they're all in little small blocks here and there on various conductors that Noranda had identified, or you know. So we're, you know, we've only owned this for six months. So it's, you know, so what we've done in 6 months is almost drill 10,000 meters permanent, you know, the drill program, built a camp. We've done some trenching already in the north zone before the snow came. So, I mean, you know, we're going as fast as we can. I know shareholders always want you to, you know, get in there and just give them the results. But this, to build a deposit, you know, and that's what we're doing, is I think we're building a deposit. We're not finding one, because we got a resource that's spectacular, and I think we can build on it. Yeah. So that's, you know, that's the plan at this point. So
first stage is kind of improve your knowledge on these first couple of lenses, but that in itself is not the end goal.
No, the end goal is to find a huge resource. We're hoping to find a 30-40 million tonner. That's either down plunge or parallel zone. Much like Rambler, you know, again, Rambler Metals in the 2000s, Rambler found their second deposit, which is now the big deposit.
Right.
And that was just parallel by a couple hundred meters.
And was that found through drilling or through geophysics?
That was, I think that was drilling underground, you know, drilling off footwall mineralization that they had hit stringer zone, and then chasing it out, and eventually finding that there's a complete parallel. Mineralized zone, and it didn't start until it was 600 meters down. Right. The second zone. So this is, you know, this is just the potential that Newfoundland has. I mean, deep deposits are definitely, you know, can be produced there.
And you mentioned that you've got lots of conductors in your geophysical data set. is a conductor what you want? I mean, when you drill, do you find pyrite, or is the mineralization associated with the conductors, or do you need to be more refined in your targeting than that?
Of course, conductors can be graphite as well, and or barren sulphides, barren pyrite. So, you know, a lot of what we do is we do soil geochem over the top of conductors and see if we get an anomaly of silver, gold, copper, whatever, zinc. And then we'll test, you know, anomalous zones. Or we may test strong conductors in mag highs, which indicate you're, you know, more pyrite, so there's likely to be copper with it.
Okay. So it's basic kind of coincident anomalies. It's the conductor plus.
Of course.
Conductor
you
plus.
use as many tools as, of course, you can, right?
Yeah.
There's 2007, Celtic Minerals had the project. They done a great job in finding new zones, the North Stringer Zone. You know, very little drilling in it again. They had awful conductors that are untested. So all this old data we're compiling now. I mean, there's, you know, they had, you know, 0.6 meters, I think, of like 9% copper and 6 grams gold, you know, in some of these little lenses. And of course, from what we see in the main deposit, those things can blow up to 25 meters, you know, in laterally in a matter of, you know, 25, 50 meters. So there's just so much work to do, and it's going to take a lot of drilling.
What size is your concession area, or your strike length of?
So our land position is 25 kilometers of the favorable horizon.
And is that measuring kind of multiple wiggles, or is that just kind of, it's literally kind of 25?
Yeah, it's probably, you know, 2-3 kilometers wide, which is, the belt is north-south, and our land package is north-south. And we basically encompass all the favorable geology for that, you know, VMS deposits. And there is a mag high that trends with it that was previously mapped as granites by the government, but it's an ultramafic unit. We've actually taken multiple samples from it now with 0.1, 0.2 nickel. So it's a you know, olivine-rich ultramafic unit. Okay. So it could produce nickel easy enough with the sulphide introduced to it.
But let's so you kind of let's stick with the VMS and
of course.
The camp. You've got a market capitalization of around $27 million Canadian.
Yeah.
Share price around 16.5 cents. What's your cash position?
We got about $2.5 million in cash right now. Of course, that's going to be down to 1.8 after this program.
So what is this program?
It'll be 3,000 meters of drilling.
When did you start that?
We started about 10 days ago.
Okay. So the news results that I've been kind of picking up.
That was in November, November, December.
But there were some results out kind of not so long ago. There's some results in January. So I guess that was the kind of the
yeah, that was the end of the program. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's holes 21, 22, which was drilled at the end of November.
Okay. And so you've started a new drill program. Sorry, how many meters? Remind me.
It'd be 3,000, maybe 4.
3,000 to 4,000 meters, and you've just started that 10 days ago.
Yeah.
And that's drilling the deeper bits and kind of trying to find the edges, which is why you mentioned you might get some misses and some hits.
That's right. Yeah. And it's, you know, the program is going well. The drill company is unbelievable.
Yeah.
We're having some success, obviously. And we are getting a lot of good information now on, you know, on the cross sections, like a full set of cross sections right across the lenses.
Good. And that's going to take 2-3 months?
That'll take us probably about a month.
A month?
Yeah.
One rig?
One rig.
Wow.
$200, or just over $200 all in costs for drilling. It's remarkable.
100 meters a day?
Yeah.
More?
These guys drill 200 meters a day. They're unbelievable drillers.
Wow. Wow, that's going some.
Yeah.
And it's okay drilling? I mean,
yeah, 100% core recovery.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
That's really...
Local company, Majors Drilling out of Deer Lake, Newfoundland, and yeah, it's been the last program was the same thing. We drilled 6,000 meters in like 6 weeks.
Wow. That's really good production rate. And so that's March. So assays coming out in April and into May. Then you'll be reviewing the market in terms of kind of maybe it's kind of an opportune time to do a capital raise, and then you can cut your cloth on the exploration plan depending on your kind of what the state of the market is and how much capital you've got. In terms of the low cost kind of value add that you can do to give you some optionality, more on the kind of the prospecting and the kind of the surface work. What can be done? Let's just park the drilling and the Great Burnt Lake kind of compact zone, but kind of what else on the trend can you do that can that's some low cost work that would be value add?
Yeah, so of course winter time now, even though most of the snow is gone again already with this warmer weather we've been having, and it might even pose a problem for us because our deeper drilling, we're out in the swamp, we're building pads, so we freeze them up, but so far we've been getting cold nights, so we're in good shape. We can, prior to us picking the project up, Spruce Ridge had built finally a drivable road that you can drive through the 15 kilometers,
right,
which previously just had an old skidder road and it took you almost a day to drive to the north end of the property.
Okay.
So now you can do that in about an hour. So this has opened things up tremendously.
Yeah.
Easy trench accessibility, easy soil sample accessibility, prospecting, of course, and mapping.
Yeah.
Structural mapping, never been done. Yeah. So opening, making bedrock with backhoes and getting a good structural geologist in spring, summer, that's going to happen. And then, because the upper zones are almost exactly the same. They got a shallow plunge to them. That was Noranda, Circle. They all seen that. But once we trenched it open, we actually could see the massive sulphide was flat on surface. And as we went down the trench, it dipped to the east. And as we went back, it dipped to the west. So it's almost like a cap.
Is this a great?
This is the South Pond deposit, the one furthest to the north.
Okay.
And just before the snow came, we took some grab samples out of that massive sulphide, and it was like 6 copper and 6 grams gold. So it's almost a 1-to-1 ratio on gold copper.
Nice.
And so these are areas, of course, that Noranda drilled, and they had a nice plunge, but they'd lose it. And so we're looking at the geologists thinking, well, maybe that makes sense, because if the limb, only goes short distance, but it goes longer on one side, they might have been actually drilling down dip. They might have drilled through the top part of it. Yeah. So this is the type of thing that's got to be mapped and tight drilling to figure out. Maybe even scissor holes to get geology figured out, or certainly the mass sulfide lenses. And again, it's as we went in there the first day we drove the road, we found a dozen new showings of boulders and subcrop of chalcopyrite that's not ever been noted. So,
and I think that road is a kind of a fundamental. It changes things because it means you can get in and out quickly. And
access is always
is a
very important.
Yeah, key development change. Right. So
and we are camped on a power dam. So our camp, the deposit is 2.5 kilometers from, a hydroelectric power dam. That we got rid of available power if we ever needed it.
Good.
So and access to port from that dam, you drive to a little town called St. Albans, which is on the ocean.
You're kind of by nature a prospect generator, and that's kind of been the model so far. And some investors don't like that model. It's almost running to stand still. Are you going to flip this asset on and then look for another one? Does this fit within your prospect generator model, or was this different?
Of course, you always, the dream is to find the monster where you no longer exist. That somebody just comes in and says, "That's beautiful. Here's your money. Here's the shareholder gets paid," and you walk away. Yeah. And those are hard to find, as you know.
Yeah, but you don't want to let them go when you find them. If you get a tiger by the tail, you hold on for dear life.
That's right. You figure out the shape of the tiger. So that's the plan. I mean, that always was the plan. I mean, we've paid our shareholders several times. Yeah. We've dividended 57 million shares of Coral Mining, which is now Marimaca Copper. Yeah. We owned 56% of that company at one point. Benton did. We own 24.6 million shares of Clean Air Metals, which was spun out of Benton.
Yeah.
We paid $3 million from Benton's treasury, from project generation, to Rio Tinto to buy the Escape Lake deposit.
Yeah.
And then we cut a deal with Panoramic Resources. We brought in Jim Gallagher and Abraham Dross to run it. And we're just a passive, not passive, and we own 11% of the company, and we own 0.5% NSR on the deposit. We've dividend a lithium company prior to this lithium boom, long before lithium was hot. We were already in it. We had some salars in Mexico that we picked up. It was in a company called Allset Energy, which is now Silver Valley Resources. So we also sold a project to Stillwater Mining, which is now Generation Mining, building a platinum palladium mine.
Yeah.
So we have a very good track record. We just never had the big one yet. We were, for Benton in Generation Mining's, for instance, Marathon PGM was the main deposit, and we owned about an eighth of the north end of their deposit that we bought from Tech Resources and the Cu-Au family. And then we bought another deposit from Newmont on that trend, and we found, I don't know how many millions of tons of platinum palladium low grade, and Stillwater had to own it because it was, it was part of their pit, and so we paid that to the shareholders. So
But I mean, couldn't you say that perhaps Cu-Au mining and the Marimaca deposit, wasn't that kind of a big one? Wasn't that something kind of good enough to hold on to?
Well, it was. I mean, the reason why we picked it up. So there's a guy by the name of Eldon Stevens and Mike Philpott, who were the guys that built First Quantum. So after they built First Quantum and they exit, the play or the company, they wanted to do the same thing in South America. So they picked up this project called San Jorge in Mendoza Province, Argentina, and that was in 2007. And they paid a lot from it for the project, and they had payments to the big copper guy. Anyway, Ross Beatty. So 2008 happens. They owe Ross $2 million payment. Coral was doing the financing at $1.50. Then it got lowered to $1, and then by December they couldn't close it because there was no money in the market. And Benton at the time had just sold this project, Stillwater Mining, for $25 million, and so we financed them at 11 cents.
Okay.
And then we exercised our warrants, ending up 56% of Coral. About a year later, that was worth over $100 million. Unfortunately, the Argentinian government kind of pulled the wool out from our ass by denying our permits, and collapsed Coral back from $1.65 to 30 cents. So at that point, we dividend all the shares to shareholders.
Okay.
So it was a mist. It wasn't. And eventually, then they bought the Marimaca copper.
Yeah. Okay.
And,
fine. So what I was pushing at was what makes this different. Do you feel as if this is something that you want to pursue? I mean, really what I'm driving at is I'm just trying to kind of understand your engagement with this asset.
Yeah, so the engagement is, these are the best holes that we've ever drilled in our whole career. These are, as you know, pretty much impossible to drill 22 holes like that.
Yeah.
That was over 600 meters, within an old resource. Luck? I don't know.
Yeah, luck favors hard work.
And but the fact is, now we believe it is a real high-grade resource, and we believe the potential is astronomical. Just for the fact that, the thing has got no drilling down plunge. I mean, Sarko stepped out 200 or 300 meters and basically did a fence of holes with core size of your winky, and when you start getting past 100 meters with that type of core, that hole could be, gone backwards. All they knew was the dip. So I think the room here is fabulous. The grade is obviously fabulous, and when you hit 25 meters of massive sulphide, you're building tons quick.
Absolutely.
That's a block of
and
metal.
The explorer in me, the kind of the prospector and the geologist likes the kind of the on trend kind of potential, the strike potential.
Yeah, and as you know, VMS deposits, they come in clusters. They don't generally be one and there's nothing else. So if you've got a belt that's got tons of untested conductors and geochem anomalies and, and gold zones, and it's, and I think Newfoundland's just untapped. It really, I mean, realistically, most of Newfoundland has seen little drilling below 200 meters.
Yeah.
It's compared to like Timmins or, any other belt in Canada, really.
And I know we're early in PDAC. It hasn't really got going. But what's the reception that you've been getting from investors and from institutions? I don't know if you've spoken with any institutions. What's that engagement like? The external engagement.
Yeah, we've been obviously talking with Canaccord and Haywoods and various groups. Haywood just wrote us up, their analysts wrote us up on that as a formal analytical report yet, but they're following closely and want to get engaged if this thing starts looking to be bigger and more exciting. So I think that's all going to come. We've obviously had interest from mid-tier groups and small copper companies that are looking for assets. So we got lots of meetings at the show, and that's going to be interesting. And I prefer, the next financing, that's what, I would love to, get a strategic in to take 19.9% in stock, because, we're not going to see it in the market in 4 months' time if we do a flow through. The last flow through we did was a charity flow through that Eric's brought the whole deal back. So he's our biggest shareholder, and he was prior even to this discovery. We're trying to keep, we do have a fairly large amount of stock out, at 170 million shares.
Yeah.
And Eric owning 28 million of those, and insiders, around 7%. But, it's hard to move shares these days when you got a lot of stock out, of course.
Yeah.
So we'd like to find a strategic so we don't see that flow through come back. Of course, if worst case scenario, we'll have to pull trigger on a financing at some point this summer.
Yeah.
Or even earlier. But if we want to go really aggressive, because I believe this thing needs 40,000 meters of drilling in the belt.
Yeah.
And that's the only way you're going to find it.
Yeah, agreed. Stephen, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure meeting you. Good luck with the PDAC and the meetings, but more luck with the exploration. We need every copper deposit. We need every junior success story that's kind of capable of delivering one. And I hope you join that exalted peer group of copper discoveries, gold discoveries, and junior success stories. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Myrna. Pleasure. It was great to meet you.